My 23F stepsister Lila, 24F, has been obsessed with destroying my relationship with my boyfriend Ethan, 25M, ever since he rejected her years ago. After months of her planting fake texts, sending flirty DMs from my phone, and even staging photos to make it look like I was cheating, she finally took it too far by faking an overdose when her lies started unraveling. The moment I walked into the dining room, I knew this dinner would end badly. Lila was already seated, swirling her wine with that fake smile I'd come to recognize, the one that meant she was sharpening her knives. Our parents chatted about some neighbor's drama, oblivious, as always, to the war about to erupt at their table. Late again, I see, Lila said as I sat down. Ethan working another double shift? Or just avoiding you? I clenched my fork. He's in surgery tonight. Some of us date adults with actual careers. Mom sighed that long-suffering sigh. Girls, please. Can't we have one peaceful meal? Lila's eyes glittered with malice. Oh, but we're just getting started. She leaned forward. Tell me, sis, does Ethan still have that scar above his eyebrow? The one he got when we dash. That's enough. My voice came out colder than I intended. We're not doing this tonight. Afraid to hear about your boyfriend's past? Lila's grin widened. Or just afraid he might compare you to me? The dining room lights suddenly felt too bright. I could hear my pulse in my ears. The only comparison he ever made was how pathetic you looked begging for his attention after he turned you down. Lila's wineglass hit the table with a crack. You smug little dash. Enough. Dad's fist slammed down, making the silverware jump. But it was too late. Lila was already moving. She crossed the mantel in 3 quick strides and snatched the framed photo of Ethan and me at the beach last summer. For a terrible second, I thought she might throw it at me. Instead, she smashed it against the edge of the coffee table. The sound of shattering glass seemed to echo forever. Jagged pieces skittered across the hardwood, our smiling faces now fractured beneath shards of broken frame. You'll regret this, Lila whispered, her voice shaking with something beyond anger. I'll make sure of it. I looked to our parents, really looked at them for the first time in years. Mom was twisting her napkin into knots, eyes darting between us like a spectator at a tennis match. Dad had retreated into that blank expression he wore when pretending everything was fine. Their silence said everything. So I walked out. The front door clicked shut behind me with unsettling finality. The night air smelled like rain and freshly cut grass, clean and simple compared to the toxic atmosphere inside. From the house, I could still hear Lila screaming, but for the first time in our lives, I wasn't listening. The glass could stay broken. Some things weren't worth repairing. The engine's final cough echoed through the empty parking lot as I turned off the car. My fingers refused to unclench from the steering wheel, frozen in place like they'd forgotten how to let go. The glowing dashboard clock read 2:17 a.m., the numbers blurring as my eyes struggled to focus. I fumbled for my phone before remembering it had died somewhere between Lila's shattered picture frame and the highway exit ramp. The silence in the car became suffocating, so I forced myself to move. The night air smelled like rain and exhaust as I walked toward Ethan's apartment building. My ballet flats scuffed against the pavement with each step, the sound unnaturally loud in the quiet complex. The elevator was out of service, of course it was, so I took the stairs, each flight feeling steeper than the last. Ethan opened the door before I could knock. He stood there in wrinkled navy scrubs, his hair sticking up in every direction like he'd been running his hands through it for hours. The warm yellow light from his apartment spilled into the hallway, highlighting the exhaustion in his face. You're freezing, he said, his voice rough with sleep. His fingers brushed against mine as he took my hand, and I realized he was right. I was shaking. The familiar scent of Ethan's apartment wrapped around me. The pine-scented cleaner he used, the faint trace of coffee that never quite faded, the crisp pages of his medical journals stacked on every surface. Normal things. Real things. He guided me to the couch and disappeared into the kitchen. I heard the tap run, the clink of ice cubes in a glass. When he returned, he pressed a cold glass of water into my hands. Not wine. After tonight, I didn't think I could stomach wine again. She destroyed the Malibu photo, I said, watching the condensation roll down the glass. Just picked it up and smashed it against the table like it was nothing. Ethan sat beside me, close enough that our knees touched. The one from our anniversary? I nodded. 3rd frame this year. I should start buying them in bulk. He didn't laugh. His fingers traced absent circles on my wrist, his touch warm against my chilled skin. What set her off this time? I opened my mouth to answer, then closed it again. The truth sat heavy on my tongue. Lila's cruel comments about Ethan, about our relationship, about every imagined slight since we were children. But saying them out loud would make them real in a way I wasn't ready to face. Instead, I shrugged. Does it matter? You've heard the greatest hits before. Ethan's phone buzzed on the coffee table, the screen lighting up with a notification. He reached for it automatically, then froze. What? I asked. Wordlessly, he turned the screen toward me. Unknown number. One sentence. Ask your girlfriend where she was last Thursday night. The glass nearly slipped from my fingers. Last Thursday? That was drinks with co-workers after the quarterly meeting. Mark from accounting had walked me to my car. He'd linger a moment too long when he said goodbye, his hand on my arm. Harmless. Meaningless. Unless someone had seen us. Unless someone wanted it to look like more. Ethan's eyes searched mine, waiting for an explanation. His expression was carefully neutral, but I could see the tension in his jaw, the way his fingers tightened around his phone. And in that moment, I understood with perfect clarity, this wasn't just another one of Lila's tantrums. She wasn't trying to hurt me anymore. She was trying to destroy me. The next morning, I woke up on Ethan's couch with a stiff neck and a dull headache. Sunlight streamed through the half-open blinds, painting stripes across the coffee table where my phone now sat charging. Ethan was already gone. A scribbled note on the counter told me he'd left for an early shift at the hospital. I reached for my phone, wincing as it lit up with notifications. 3 missed calls from Mom. 5 texts from Dad. Nothing from Lila, which somehow felt more ominous. The unknown number's text still burned in my memory. Ethan hadn't pressed me about it last night, but the careful way he'd avoided the subject before going to bed told me everything I needed to know. The seed of doubt had been planted. Work was a blur. I answered emails on autopilot, my fingers moving while my brain replayed last night's fight on a loop. By lunchtime, I couldn't take the silence anymore. I texted Ethan, "We good?" The reply took 20 minutes. Of course. Long shift. Talk tonight. Too formal. Too careful. Something was wrong. I was scrolling through our old messages, looking for proof that everything was normal, when a new notification popped up, a Facebook message from Rachel, Ethan's younger sister. "Hey, weird question," it read. "Did you and Ethan break up? Someone told me you were seeing someone else." My stomach dropped. I typed back immediately, "What? No. Who told you that?" Rachel's reply came fast. "Lila messaged me last night. Said she didn't want Ethan to be the last to know." The office walls seemed to close in around me. Lila wasn't just sending anonymous texts. She was contacting Ethan's family now, spreading lies with surgical precision. I drove to Ethan's apartment after work, rehearsing what I'd say. But when I got there, his car wasn't in its usual spot. I waited for an hour, pacing the parking lot, before giving up. That's when I saw it. A flash of familiar blonde hair in a passing car. Lila's best friend, Sarah, slowing down just enough to make sure I'd seen her before driving off. My phone buzzed as I got back into my car. A photo from an unknown number, grainy but unmistakable. Me and Mark from accounting standing too close outside the bar last Thursday. The angle made it look intimate, incriminating. The caption read, "Funny how history repeats itself." And just like that, I understood Lila's game. She wasn't just trying to make Ethan doubt me. She was recreating the exact scenario that had destroyed her own past relationships. The accusations, the mistrust, the slow unraveling. I called Ethan. It went straight to voicemail. The second call rang once before I hung up. What would I even say? That my sister was framing me? That none of this was real? It sounded insane even to me. As I pulled out of the parking lot, my phone buzzed again, this time with a location pin. Ethan's favorite coffee shop across town. And beneath it, a single sentence. Guess who's drowning his sorrows in caffeine right now? I didn't need to guess. I knew. And worse, I knew exactly who'd be sitting down across from him, ready to pour poison in his ear with a sympathetic smile. Lila had set the stage perfectly. Now all that was left was to watch me fall. Rain pounded against my windshield as I sped across town, the wipers struggling to keep up. My phone buzzed continuously in the passenger seat. More messages from the unknown number, each one twisting the knife deeper. The GPS said 12 minutes to the coffee shop. I made it in 8, running 2 yellows and ignoring the honk of an angry taxi driver. The smell of roasted beans and steamed milk hit me as I shoved through the cafe door, my damp hair clinging to my cheeks. The place was packed with students and remote workers, their laptops glowing like fireflies in the dim afternoon light. Then I saw them. Ethan in his usual corner booth, his broad shoulders hunched over a medical textbook, and Lila perched across from him like a cat who'd corner mouse. She spotted me first. A slow, venomous smile spread across her face as she leaned forward, saying something that made Ethan's shoulders tense. By the time I reached their table, she was already standing, her half-finished latte abandoned. "Claire," she purred, adjusting the strap of her designer bag. "We were just talking about you." The scent of her vanilla perfume turned my stomach. I kept my eyes locked on Ethan. "We need to talk. Alone." Lila made a show of checking her diamond-studded watch, a gift from Dad for her last birthday. "Oh, look at the time. I should go check on Mom anyway." She squeezed Ethan's shoulder, her manicured nails digging just enough to leave marks. "Remember what I said, Ethan? The truth always comes out." The moment the bell jingled behind her, I slid into the still warm seat. Ethan wouldn't meet my eyes. "Whatever she told you, it's not just her." His voice was hoarse, like he hadn't slept. He pulled out his phone with trembling fingers, swiped through several screens, then pushed it toward me. "Explain this." The screen showed a text thread, my number, my contact photo, filled with messages I'd never sent. Flirty jokes with Mark, complaints about Ethan, plans to meet up at a hotel. The dates lined up perfectly with my actual work calendar. My throat closed. "Ethan, this isn't real. I swear on my life." "And this?" He swiped to a photo, me walking into a Marriott I'd never visited, time-stamped last Friday at 2:17 p.m. The exact hour I'd been presenting to the entire marketing team. "I was at work. There are 30 people who can vouch. Rachel, show me your messages." His voice broke, telling her we were through, that you found someone who actually understood you. The room tilted. I gripped the edge of the table. I would never. "Ethan, look at me. When have I ever talked like that?" His eyes finally met mine, and the doubt I saw there shattered me. The cafe door banged open. All heads turned as my mother stumbled in, her raincoat dripping onto the hardwood. Her face was corpse pale, her mascara running in black streaks. "Claire," her voice cracked. She clutched the nearest chair for balance. "It's Lila. The hospital just called." Ice flooded my veins. Ethan was on his feet instantly, catching Mom as her knees buckled. "What happened?" I barely recognized my own voice. Mom's trembling hands fumbled with her phone. She turned the screen toward us, a photo of a handwritten note in Lila's looping script. "I can't live with what I've done. I'm sorry for ruining everything." Below it, an ER intake form. "Overdose. Critical condition." Ethan's keys were already in his hand. "I'll drive." The rain had turned into a monsoon as we sprinted to the parking lot. Mom collapsed into the back seat, her sobs mixing with the thunder. Ethan gripped the wheel like it was the only solid thing left in the world. As we peeled out of the lot, my phone buzzed one last time. Another unknown number. Another photo. Lila's bedroom desk. My stolen lipstick. A pile of shredded hotel receipts. And beside them, the burner phone she'd used to destroy us. The caption read, "You win." But as the hospital loomed ahead, its emergency lights cutting through the storm, I realized with horrible clarity, none of us had won anything at all. The hospital's fluorescent lights hummed violently overhead as we rushed through the emergency room doors. The sharp smell of antiseptic burned my nose, mixing with the metallic tang of fear in the back of my throat. Mom collapsed into a plastic waiting room chair, her hands shaking too badly to hold the clipboard of forms. Ethan took them wordlessly, his medical training kicking in despite the circumstances. When they finally let us see Lila, I barely recognized her. The vibrant, vicious sister I knew looked like a ghost against the sterile white sheets, her golden hair matted, her designer nails chipped, her skin nearly translucent under the harsh lights. Machines beeped steadily around her, tubes snaking from her arms like she was being held together by wires and tape. The doctor used words like stomach pumping and lucky to be alive, but all I could focus on was the faint tremor in Lila's fingers, the way her breathing hitched when she dreamed, the raw marks around her wrists where she'd struggled against the paramedics. Ethan stood stiffly beside me, his hand hovering near my back but never quite touching. The unspoken words between us hung heavier than any argument. 3 days later, Lila was discharged with a referral to a psychiatric program and a prescription she'd probably never fill. Mom fluttered around her like a nervous bird, rearranging pillows that didn't need fluffing and smoothing blankets that weren't wrinkled. Dad flew in from his business trip looking 10 years older, his expensive suit rumpled from the red-eye flight. No one mentioned the note, the lies, the carefully constructed destruction. I found Ethan sitting at our usual cafe table a week later, stirring his coffee long after the sugar had dissolved. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and his shoulders slumped under the weight of everything unsaid. "You believe me now?" I asked, my voice barely audible over the espresso machine's hiss. His spoon clinked against the ceramic mug. I never stopped, but the hesitation before he answered told me everything I needed to know. Some doubts, once planted, grow roots too deep to ever fully remove. The last time I saw Lila was on the back porch at our parents' house. She sat curled in a threadbare blanket, staring at the sunset like it might hold answers in its fading light. For once, she looked small instead of sharp. "You were right," she said finally, her voice rough. "About everything." I studied the profile I'd known since childhood. The stubborn set of her jaw, the faint scar above her eyebrow from a long-ago bicycle accident. The sister who used to sneak candy into my backpack before school. "I know," I said. We sat in silence as the sky turned from gold to violet to deep blue. Then I stood, brushed the autumn leaves from my jeans, and walked away without looking back. Some fires burn too hot to put out. Some bridges are meant to collapse.